I've always had a fascination for long and scary music, the kind of music which feels larger than life and genuinely leaves an impression on you and makes you feel like a changed person by the end of their runtime. Swans are one of my favorite bands of all time, if not my favorite, and you could say this idea applies to many of their albums, whether it's the 2.5-hour-long soundtracks for the blind or their series of 2-hour-long triple albums starting with The Seer in 2012 and ending with their most recent album, Birthing, releasing in 2025. Each of these mega albums mix ambient and post-rock featuring heavy repetition, repeating riffs until the song builds up into an explosive crescendo where it feels like all hell is breaking loose. By the end of each of these albums, it's hard to feel like the same person you were before listening, as getting to the end can be a genuine challenge, not only by their long run times, but also by how dissonant and noisy the albums themselves can sound. That may have been really pretentious. A lot of ambient albums fit this idea. The Disintegration Loops by William Basinski. This album was created by playing the same loop over and over and over again until the loop itself slowly becomes more distorted and unrecognizable as though it's disintegrating. This leads to a track that is over an hour long, and after listening, it's hard to say that it didn't stick with me, and one of the main reasons it managed to stick with me was its really long length. What is the point of what I'm talking about? About a year or so ago, I was playing through the Elden Ring DLC at probably around 2 a.m., and I was looking for some new music to listen to in the background when this album got recommended to me on Spotify. I was immediately drawn in by the album cover, which could be described as haunting yet strangely beautiful. It had a layer of mystique that was practically begging me to investigate further, which I did. The album was titled Daughter of Darkness by a band called Natural Snow Buildings. Natural Snow Buildings are a French duo who primarily make ambient psychedelic folk music. The two masterminds behind it are, I'm gonna butcher both of these names, Mehdi Amazian and Solange Goularte. Mehdi also makes more music under the name Twin Sister Moon, and Solange also makes more music under the name Isengrind. The band started in 1998, and they have so much music out. Wikipedia lists 22 albums, but this random person's blog post says 26, so I don't know what to believe anymore. Their two most notable releases are The Dance of the Moon and the Sun, which was released in 2006, and Daughter of Darkness, which was released in 2009 and kind of remastered, I guess you could say, in 2013. The band seems pretty secretive, and it was pretty hard to find information on them. They have a deep cult following, however, which I'd say is deserved, especially considering the vast amount of music they have put out over the years. I had never heard of this band before, but I was intrigued. I scrolled through the tracks. There were 18 in total, and when I got to the bottom, something shocked me. The runtime for this album is 7 hours and 19 minutes. So I did the rational thing and started listening to the album. I stayed up until 2:15 a.m. to just finish the first song to gauge what the hell I was getting myself into. If you thought I was staying up till 9 a.m. to listen to this shit, who the fuck do you think I am? I'm not that dedicated. I try to have a bit of a life. The first song on the album is the 13-minute long title track, and I was met with ambient folk music that, like the cover, I would describe as haunting yet strangely beautiful and mysterious. The track featured layers of different string instruments with a very simple and prominent melody in the forefront. This melody repeats itself over and over again, and it put me in a trance-like state. Behind the melody, the background guitars and other string instruments were creating a world of their own. The melody stayed the same, but the background ebbed and flowed and changed like ocean waves. Nothing felt constant other than that one impending melody, and I cannot pinpoint exactly what this track makes me feel. Fear? Awe? Desperation? Lust? Unfortunately, I was too tired to finish it then and there, so I went to sleep for the night. Over the course of the next few days, my goal was to listen to the entire album. It was far too long for me to listen to in one sitting. I do not think I have the willpower for that. Pretty much every chance I got, I would listen to the next song on the album, and I loved every second of it. Every time I pressed play, I'd immediately be swooped off my feet and be put into this unreal feeling world the album creates. By the time I finished the album, I genuinely felt like a different person. I felt more matured and experienced, and my taste in music broadened just a little bit. I started to appreciate the smaller things in music and the potential worlds that music can create with just a strong atmosphere. After I finished the album, I decided to move on. I never really came back to it as I felt like I completed it, if that makes any sense. I moved on with my life, though a different person than I was before I listened to it. It was a few weeks ago when I thought of the album again. I remembered my experience with it very fondly, and I was looking for an album to sleep to, and I chose this one. I put on a random song from it, Carnal Flowers. The song began with a few seconds of muffled, unintelligible noise. It slowly became louder, however, revealing a choir singing a simple, catchy, almost medieval-sounding melody with cultish-sounding percussion in the background with layers of complementing instrumentation. The choir repeats this melody over and over and over again. As it goes on, the choir becomes more distorted, almost as if they are passing the threshold of one world and they are now attempting to enter another world. With the song feeling like it is stuck between worlds, it also feels like it is stuck between emotions. I don't know if I should feel scared, hopeful, depressed, or relaxed while listening to this. The gray area it operates in almost feels like some kind of musical purgatory. Nothing is or ever will be true other than this melody, which, like the aforementioned disintegration loops, will repeat itself over and over again till there is nothing left of it. This track is only 5 minutes long, yet it feels like it lasts a lifetime. The world it creates fully consumed me as I lay there trying to fall asleep. The only thing that felt real was that repetitive choir melody. Everything else came out of focus. I could not fall asleep. I had to change the music as it wasn't doing the job. But my interest in this album was reinvigorated and I was in the mood for revisiting its world. Daughter of Darkness was originally released in January of 2009, made up of 5 cassettes. It has a different album cover than the one we all know and love, and it's good. It's a really good cover, actually. Still nowhere near as good as the cover that's on streaming, but it's still very, very good. This 2009 version of the album actually has a different track list than the streaming version. Some songs are removed or are in a different order, or there's some other tracks that just aren't on the streaming version. Daughter of Darkness 5 was a separate release, which was meant to serve as accompaniment to the album. It was also released in January, and it featured a few bonus tracks. Now, cut to 2013. For some reason, Natural Snow Buildings decide to remaster both of these projects. They take a couple tracks from Daughter of Darkness 5 and mix them with the original album, while also cutting out some random tracks and changing the order and finally changing the album cover to this beauty. Finally, on October 29th, 2013, Daughter of Darkness was officially re-released. Now, to be completely honest, I have only listened to the 2013 version, so I can't really judge if it's an improvement, but all I know is that I love the music. The album begins with the title track, which I already talked about earlier. I love this song, and it's one of my favorites on the album. After that is Satanic Demona Part 1, which is a beautiful 28-minute long ambient folk piece, which bleeds perfectly into Satanic Demona Part 2. I love the chord that Part 2 starts on. It gives the song a rather chilling atmosphere right off the bat. The track leads into one of the more beautiful segments of the album with folksy wind instrumentation creating an almost tranquil forest scene, at least for me. Of course, this beauty slowly builds up into a crescendo that still holds some of that tranquility, but overall, it becomes almost stressful to listen to. It's like if said forest started to burn down with no hope of putting out the fire, and you just accept that nothing can be done to stop it. I really like how the track Curar builds up and then just suddenly ends, with the aforementioned Carnal Flowers fading in right after. I love Carnal Flowers. It's amazing, obviously, and one of the best. It's just one of the best songs. This track is only 5 minutes long, and with a song this short, it's starting to feel like a normal album. I'm just kidding. The next song is 46 minutes long. Her face is not her real face. This may be my favorite song on the album. It starts off with an arpeggiated acoustic guitar. The guitar is in the forefront for the next few minutes while being accompanied by cold vocals and other instrumentation in the background. Eventually, it builds up into one of the best crescendos in the album. The chord progression feels more and more defined as the track builds, leading to the crescendo to feel more natural and powerful. And then it dies back down to guitar and vocals, with the vocals being distorted, sounding as if they're simultaneously very close, yet very far away. This chilling breakdown lasts for a few minutes before the track crescendos again and then dies back down into an instrumental drone, signaling the end. This song is fucking gorgeous. It feels like an adventure. All the different sections are surprisingly memorable, Yes, the length is daunting, but if it sounds at all interesting, I implore you to check it out. If you check out any two songs, I recommend this one and Carnal Flowers. I believe both of these songs represent the album perfectly. Body Double comes right after at a very short, 12 minutes. Hey, it feels short after the last song. This one is a lot more calm, and when I listen to it, I feel a little relaxed. Not completely safe, but relaxed. This is definitely one of the more lower key songs in the album. It kinda reminds me of the Safe Zones from Resident Evil, but in song form. I really like Santa's Anger Part 1, which is an honestly pretty intense drone that goes on for about 11 minutes before flowing directly into Santa's Anger Part 2, which starts off a little calmer before going insane in the last few minutes. The last 2 minutes in particular are impressive to me because there is just so much happening, but it never feels like too much. It's genuinely pretty intense. The Source is another blessedly short track with a runtime of only 5 minutes. This song has one of the best vocal melodies on the entire album. The calming vocal melody and the stressful instrumentation feels like it's putting me in emotional purgatory. I'm stuck in the middle between feeling alert and relaxed, and it puts me in a state of mind very few songs can manage. Great track. For the track A Thousand Demons Invocation, I really like how distorted it feels. I can't tell if that's an electric guitar with distortion that is sprinkled across the track, or if the track itself is distorted. I also really enjoyed the vocal melody, which plays in the last few minutes of the song. The track Slaves for the Afterlife feels very melancholic and hopeless, as the title may suggest. It paints me a picture of someone swimming out into the ocean, and they swim out too far to where they won't be able to swim back to safety. They try to swim back, but it's hopeless. They're too tired. And when the acoustic guitar hits about halfway through the song, it signals the realization that they'll never make it back to shore, and all they can do is accept that. Black Pastors is one of the mellower cuts on the album. The 29-minute long track is genuinely relaxing, almost too relaxing. To me, it feels like the calm before the storm, and in the last few minutes where the track builds up and adds more distortion, it feels like acceptance of said storm. And the way the track just kind of buffers out of existence makes me think the storm won. A standout track in the second half of the album is Will You Die For Me? It starts off with piano, which I don't know if there's any piano before now on the album. To be honest, if there was, I could have totally missed it, but I'm not going back to check because, you know. The entire 21-minute length is breathtaking. It physically calmed me down so much that nothing felt real other than this track and my thoughts. This is a very good song to think to, by the way. It made everything so much clearer. I heavily recommend this one, and you should go check it out. Devil's Fork has a complete air of desperation around it. Listening to the track makes me feel like what I want most in life is within reach, but no matter how hard I try, I am unable to grasp it. Blood in the Ground Linking Us All is another 30-minute long drone piece, and like many of the other tracks on the album, it puts me in a trance, and it's the kind of trance where nothing else matters except the music, and time seems to speed up and slow down at the same time. I don't know, it's a weird feeling. I remember the first time I listened to this song, I was driving, and I was so locked in on listening to it that I nearly got into an accident, so I don't recommend listening to this album while driving. Also, quick side note, this album has like the coolest fucking titles ever. Like, I don't think I can make a more badass title to a song than Blood in the Ground Linking Us All. The Invisibles is the penultimate song on the album, and it's a 40-minute long drone piece, and yeah, it's a great song. It's honestly pretty similar to a lot of the other songs on this album, so if I said much more about it, I'd start repeating myself, but yeah, it's still very good. The final track on the album is Psychic Navigation, and I believe it's the perfect closer to this album. It's one of the more mellow songs here, and it sets the perfect tone for a finale. I'm glad they didn't make the final track like an insanely long and epic piece to cap out the album. No, instead they did a calmer piece where one could reflect on the very long album they just listened to, and for that I love it. The overall tranquility of the track feels strangely cathartic, and if I had to describe it in one word, I'd say acceptance. You may have noticed that the theme of acceptance after a tragedy keeps coming up in this album. Well, at least that's what I get out of it. I don't really know exactly what the band members wanted me to feel, but I think that the beauty of this kind of music is that there is really no wrong or right way to interpret it, and this is just my personal interpretation. Someone else who listens to this album may take a very different meaning from the work, and I think that's kind of amazing that a piece of music can affect so many people in so many different ways. Back to my interpretation though. To me, I think that the album is about acceptance after tragedy. A tragedy can be very difficult to deal with or even ruin someone's life. Sometimes things will get worse before they get better, but they will get better. They always do, but it takes time. The tension and release of this album tells me that there will be hardship, but it will get better if I power through it. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. I love this album. It's one of the best I've ever heard. The tension in the release of this album tells me that there will be hardship, but it will get better if I power through it. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. I love this album. It's one of the best that I've ever heard. Each track feels like a separate world with its own story and atmosphere, which is why I'm not too concerned with listening to the whole thing in one sitting like I would be with the Disintegration loops or Everywhere at the End of Time. This is kind of a silly comparison, but I like to think of this album as like the Bible, where it's more of a library of loosely connected stories that relate to a common theme rather than one big story. As obviously there are no lyrics or anything, the only thing I could use to get meaning out of these songs are the titles and the music itself. What I got out of most of these songs was very strong mental imagery, and I kind of based my interpretation around that, which works for me, but it probably won't work for everyone. But what I want you to take away from this video is that this album is incredible. There's nothing really like it that I've heard. Although listening to the album may seem like a daunting endeavor, I say face that challenge. For me, it was pretty ambitious to take on, but I left feeling like a changed person with a broader appreciation of music, and it got me thinking about that light at the end of the tunnel, I'm not gonna lie. I think if you take the plunge, the same thing may happen to you. But I hope you enjoyed this video, as I had fun making it. I have music on streaming under the name Sedlu, and I have a Patreon, which I may do something with one of these days. Anyways, thank you for watching this far. I really mean that. Thank you. I hope this video is slightly better than my first. I definitely spent a bit more time on it, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just having fun making these. Peace.
Butter dog, the dog with the butter, I want the butter on him. The dog with the butter, I want the butter on him.